Welcome to Night Talks, the University of Florida College of Journalism and Communications talk show produced by students for students. I'm Ashanti Ferrier, a junior studying advertising, and our guest today is Mohammed Merlin, who graduated with his bachelor's degree in telecommunication with a concentration in engineering. He's gone on to work in investment banking, technology in New York City, and is now the assistant vice president with Credit Suisse. Hi, Mohammed. Thank you so much for being up here today.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
Sak passe.
Hey, Makbule.
So my first question for you today, you have such an interesting story, beginning with growing up in Orlando since your mother didn't speak English. And as the oldest of your siblings, how did that impact you?
It was actually very challenging, I would say, growing up with my mom and my dad. He left the home probably when I was in middle school. So being both my parents came from Haiti, paying the bills and writing out the checks, like I thought that was a normal thing to do, writing out checks, handling mortgage loans, calling customer service, making sure all the bills are intact. So having to do that from 12 years old all the way through high school and University of Florida as well. So even as a college student, I was managing my mom's finances, her car insurance, and my own finances, and my own health insurance, and all these other activities going on in my life, plus school. So that all in total was a challenge, and I'm grateful for it though.
That is really amazing. So back at Carver Middle School, you had a teacher, Miss Davis, who told you that you wouldn't be a product of your environment. Yeah. So how did that impact you, and what was your environment at the time?
She literally she was the first one to tell me that I'm going to college and I'm going to get it paid for. And I didn't even know what that meant at the time, because when I think about my parents, the only thing they said to do was to go to school, but I cannot even fathom what college even meant. So fast forward later, I remember having to take do my FAFSA, the ACT, SAT, and not even knowing what they were until I actually took those exams, right? And I really do believe she spoke that over my life, and attending University of Florida, became a Matching Florida Opportunity Scholar, and that's the reason why I'm here, all because one person spoke that into my life.
I think that's a very important thing for all college students, to have that person behind them, motivating them and being a role model for them. So where do you think you would have been at if you had not gone to the University of Florida?
I don't even think that's even a question I even want to think about, but I've thought about it before, and without MFOS, even without the guidance like Ms. Davis or Dr. Dorsey, he was my golf coach, I don't know where I would be. I'd probably be still in the streets of Orlando. Could easily, like I said, their influence is very contagious, so it could have just been that wrong place or wrong time, because there was police all rampant in that west side of Orlando and crime happening. And mind you, people are not here today. If I could have been in the wrong place, wrong time, and I get emotional even thinking about it, I probably wouldn't be even sitting before you.
That's very powerful. So you were actually the president of NSBE and also Alpha Phi Alpha.
Yep.
And it seems like a community is something very important to you. So how did you use your presidency to bring community?
Community is huge. As human beings, we just always are searching for status and belonging. And so coming to the University of Florida, one of the first organizations I got introduced to was NSBE. And it just was such a professional organization. It just had so much grace and inclusion for minorities when it comes to engineering, and also too, just in general, the space that everybody celebrated, which I love. And no, it wasn't this whole comparison thing. I didn't want to see you win, and people just wanted to help you advance, especially in technology. And so when I came in as a freshman, I said, okay, this is an organization I want to lead one day. And fortunately enough, I remember I was NSBE Member of the Year that year, Finance Chair, Treasurer, and then President. But here's the interesting part. I want to be transparent. Because I switched my major from electrical engineering to telecommunications, I thought I was not fit, or I wasn't qualified to be president of NSBE. So I remember I had a conversation with Breon at the time that I was actually going to give up my ticket to run for treasurer, and that was going to stop my journey to president. But he told me that it's not about the major, it's about the impact. It's about the mission, right? And so it's about creating impact and the inclusion for our communities. And so that's how I use the mission of NSBE and Alpha Phi Alpha of really impact communities through education, through professional excellence, through development, and bringing that to the students.
You know what? I feel like that has a very important meaning and lesson because for a lot of college students as well, you may not end up in your major or the first job that you get may not be in the career that you wanted. But since your degree was in telecommunications, how do you think that prepared you for your field? Because your field is definitely very different from telecommunications, but it still gave you the skills to get to your career.
Right. Where engineering can be very logical and analytical. What I loved about telecommunications was the fact that it requires a lot of creativity, right? With the editing and Adobe and having the different cuts. I love that. And I was able to bring that in the workplace because you can be creative when it comes to finance. You can be creative when it comes to technology. So the fact that I was able to transfer that over and working on teams, because it's to run a whole production studio is an orchestration, right? So to be able to work on a team on Wall Street and orchestrate a team to bring them a final product, because once again I work in technology, so we deliver products to our traders so that they can trade properly. I think it's phenomenal. So I'm really grateful for the telecommunication degree, and the fact that I was able to shape it into the vision that I had for my time at UF is the same thing with my career. On paper, I'm just an application developer in architecture, but I was able to shift it to what I call a solutions architect. So once again, telecommunications, I created my own experience here. Now my career on Wall Street, I created that experience there as well.
So how was your transition from the small University of Florida to the big Wall Street? And working in the technology on Wall Street, did you experience imposter syndrome from that transition from college to the big world?
Man, we'll be here all day if I talk to you about what I've experienced when it comes to imposter syndrome, not belonging. It's been a phenomenal transition, right? When I first got there, and I'm gonna be really transparent, I did not graduate the most highest grades, but people on Wall Street, they got 3.5s or higher. They're at Stanford, Carnegie Mellon, Yale, and mind you, University of Florida, top 5 now, shout out University of Florida, top 5, right? I believe we're top 10, top 7 at that point. But still, I'm from the South. They don't recruit from the South, right? I'm from Richmond Heights. I'm underrepresented community, low income. In my head, I had all these insecurities stacked against me. And you have professional on Wall Street from a kid, they were told you're gonna be an analyst or you're gonna be an investment banker. And people, and mind you, in technology, there were some of my peers that were much better at Java, much better at programming languages. And I didn't have that much experience, right? I failed a lot of classes here, right? And so I didn't feel like I belonged. And I used a lot of my stipend money to even move up there. I don't have any family up there. So when it came to imposter syndrome, you lack confidence, but you're clearly competent. But that's why you need guidance and mentorship, and you need that community, that big word community again, to tell you, hey, you do belong. You do belong, Ashanti. You do belong, Muhammad. You do belong, Mercy. So it's like, that was so big for me that I had that guidance to say, hey, Muhammad, you do belong here. And another thing about imposter syndrome that I realize is not talked about a lot is that we always see it from a very negative viewpoint. It can actually be seen as a very positive thing as well. It's just how you look at it. Because imposter syndrome brings humility. It doesn't, you feel like you're not as competent, you lack confidence, right? So guess what you do? Because of that humility, you go and find the resources, you go find the information because you want to make up for the gap that you believe that you have, right? And that's what I did. I went to go find information, I went to go find the proper resources, I went to go find the proper individuals to now where I'm able to excel in my career.
So speaking of finding the proper individuals, do you think you had any mentors that really helped you transition to Wall Street?
Yes, I would definitely say management leadership for tomorrow. If there's any program that helped me get from where I was at mentally, when I was at professionally, was MLT, Management Leadership for Tomorrow, and my coach, Rachel Stansell. I didn't know how to merge the worlds of business and technology and utilize my degree to do that. She helped it wrap it all together. There's a test that we took called Career Leader, and part of that was application technology I'll be good at, enterprise control. And so through that clarity and mock interviews and exposure through like Facebook, Google, Credit Suisse was one of the individuals at the seminars, right? And I'll never forget this. I was in line for Facebook, and there was a guy named Jerome, I'll never forget this. I got him on LinkedIn and everything. I think I tell him thank you every year. So thank you, Jerome. I don't know if you're gonna see this, but so Jerome said, "Are you interested in financial services?" Mind you, at the time, I never heard of financial services. I don't even know what that is. I never heard of Big Four, all these, Bain, all these different companies, right? And I said, sure, why not? I mean, I'm not gonna, not say yes to an opportunity. So I gave him my resume. Next thing you know, I'm interviewing for an internship, and intern 2016, intern 2017. Next thing you know, I'm full-time with Credit Suisse in 2018.
So I love that you brought up that you have to go through tests to get a testimony, because for a lot of college students, you're at the very top, you're a senior, you graduate, and then you're at the very bottom of the barrel once again. And it can be really hard, and you can feel like you don't belong or you don't have the experience as some people who have been in the industry for years. But you brought up something very important, which was mentorship and guidance. Right. And a lot of the times college students hear, you need a network, you need to find a mentorship, you need to find someone in the industry. So do you have any mentors or any networking experience that you can talk about that led you to Credit Suisse?
I believe mentorship is huge. If anybody, in my opinion, that says, oh, they were self-made, I don't believe in self-made. That's my personal opinion, because I believe someone had to have the resources or the guidance or the network to get to wherever they're at in life. If you look at my entire timeline, it's been people there to help me advance along the way. In middle school, it was Miss Cynthia Davis that spoke life into me and said, Muhammad, you're going to college. You're going to get it paid for. Guess what? It happened. Then I went to high school. Could easily end up in the streets, right? Gangs everywhere. It was Dr. Dorsey who, back then, 1961, he graduated valedictorian from Jones High School, right? And then he started his golf program, became a dentist, and then now he's coaching me, mentoring me, not only in the game of golf, but in life, right? And then I went to college, right? And mind you, once again, small fish in the big pond, 50,000 students, right? Thinking that it'll belong, all of this nature. Here comes Professor David Whitney. He was the engineering resident at the time at the University of Florida. Met him summer 2013. He kept me under his wing throughout the 5 years I was at University of Florida. Now here's the bigger thing, right? I leave University of Florida, right? I've had mentors in my profession, in my career, or in my, you can say my degree, right? Then I go into Wall Street. Then I had individuals like Will Black, and then I had individuals like Anthony Jody and Brian Acia. So now I transitioned not only having mentors in my career, but people, like I said, Brian Acia, Anthony and Jody, to help mentor me in life. So that's where I am now, where I have those mentors and coaches in my life. So as you've seen, from when I was younger to where I am now, it's been individuals and collections of people or communities that's helped me along the way.
So with all those communities and networking opportunities and mentorships, I'm so happy you had that in your life. How did that transition into your role at Credit Suisse?
I would say definitely one of the communities, like I said, mentioned with Management Leadership for Tomorrow, I believe that was transformational, meeting Richel Stansel. We still speak to this day. And that's a point that I also want to make too, because there's networking and there's relationship building. Yes, you're going to make a lot of connections in life, but it's those key relationships that helps propel you through these different seasons in your life. And one of the things that happened also in college is that my sister got diagnosed with breast cancer. And once again, it could have been strictly professional, but when you've built relationships with people, it's not just professional, it's personal. And that's when she came in and she helped me find personal clarity in my life. She helped me find my career, but she was also there with me when I was dealing with one of the most challenging parts of my life when my sister got breast cancer. And so now moving forward, because she helped me find that personal clarity, she helped me find an intersection with business and technology, which was a business analyst, which then I transitioned to an application developer. She helped me along that journey. I was able to find that role that fits me well.
And now you're the assistant vice president. So could you tell us about your journey from the bottom of the barrel to the top?
Yeah, it's been the only company I've been with since I've interned. I've enjoyed my 2 summers there, and they gave me a full-time offer to start in the summer of 2018. And mind you, once again, I took the things that I had, I moved up there that summer. I still remember it, June 21st, 2018. And I started July 9th, 2018. I remember these days like it was yesterday. And I love how these chapters transition, because once again, didn't have any family here, only known Florida my entire life. And so now I'm in a career starting as a technical analyst there. And once again, there go that imposter syndrome, didn't know a lot, wasn't the best programmer at all. and I sought out those resources. I would say my first year, I was focused on networking. I was focused on building relationships to see how I can most add value to not only myself, but to the the firm overall. And getting involved with also too with the Black Professionals Network to help with HR to open that access to get more underrepresented communities and also diverse talent into the firm. So yes, I have my role as a technical analyst, but there's a lot of other roles that I play at the firm as well. And so yeah, the 2 years was rotational. So I came in as business analyst with information barriers. So there's something called MNPI. So making sure that certain type of information, client data doesn't go out to the public. So what I do is that I help traders facilitate those trades electronically, because now most trading is done electronically. I would say 20 years ago, they used to do it something called high touch, which means you're on the phone. You've seen Wolf of Wall Street, right? So it will be more high touch. They're calling the phone, you're yelling. So being on the trading floor now, it's somewhat like that, but it's not as bad as you've seen in the movies, right? So, but they're still kind of, they're talking, a little bit of yelling. But once again, you'll see their monitors, most of that is electronic. If you go to any trading desk, it'll be mostly electronic. I make sure that happens.
How would you say your personality or your train of thought has changed since you were a technical analyst to now being a assistant vice president?
I have a broader scope of what's happening at the firm. If you ask me what are equities, what are bonds, what is fixed income, and all these different terms, I don't even know any of that, right? So it's funny when someone come up to me and they might be impressed in what I say. I let them know that I didn't know any of this stuff 3 years ago. I was right where you were at. And so I make sure I connect and relate to new analysts that whatever I can do, you can do as well. Because look, I started with almost no any knowledge at all, right? And I would say my knowledge has progressed a lot more. I've seen the reach of the firm because it's a global firm, 50,000 employees. They're across 50 countries, 56 countries or so forth. They have like up 1.6 trillion assets under management. So it's a huge firm, and there's so many different moving parts. So I would say my knowledge has gone a lot larger when it comes to the moving parts of the firm, and my reach as far as influence has been able to be a lot broader, where I can reach out and bring more people with me on this journey.
So we're on this topic of growth. How do you think New York you is different from who you were in Florida?
That's a great question. Who New York me versus Florida Mo? I would say I have a better understanding of the world. When I was in Florida, I didn't have much exposure. It was more Florida people, and Florida culture. I believe every state, country has their own culture, and New York is just a lot of diversity in mindset, thought, people. You'll see somebody, they may look like they're from a certain country, but they're not. They could have been born in Australia, but raised in New England or England, and their family and their wife is from, or husband is from Japan. It was like, it's so diverse in New York, and they speak so many different languages. Every time I get into an Uber, is a different thing I'm learning about someone's country, like Georgia, the country, not the state, right? And I find that's phenomenal, and I'm able to gain that information. And when I meet someone else in the country or in the world, I'm able to relate, because I met so many different types of people in New York City. And I met some phenomenal people in New York. I've learned there's different ways to live life, right? Because in Florida, you follow the script of, oh, I'm not only in Florida, but maybe certain people, they grow up, okay, you just go to school, get good grades, get a good job, and that's it. I went to New York, and you realize you see diversity of thought, you see inclusion. And I love this as well, as far as diversity is a fact. We see diversity in this room, we see diversity in the University of Florida, we see diversity in this world. Inclusion is a choice. And that's what I realized being in New York, that inclusion is a choice. I've seen it, right? And also too, like I mentioned before, different lifestyles. You don't only have to just have this one career and that's how you live life. There's people that I've seen that are retired early, staying at home with their child, developing assets. And if you want to, it's about creating options, right? Trading restrictions for options. That's what I learned about being in New York City. And then while being up there, that's when I learned about the term Kaizen. And that's been phenomenal for me as well.
Snaps to that. I really love that testimony.
Yeah.
It really touched me, and I hope that it also had some sentiment with some of our audience members. So what is this concept of Kaizen that you just brought up? And also, do you believe that you've achieved this in life?
So I remember I saw like this tweet or something like that that really impacted me emotionally. And I was like, why is this bothering me so much? So literally that point in time, I literally removed myself from all social media and I started reevaluating myself. Muhammad, why do you believe in this? Do you believe in this? I started valuing, like I said, my values, my beliefs, my habits. Which ones were empowering me? Which ones was disempowering me? And something that I realized with myself is that a lot of times we can believe things that are true that are actually false, and things that are actually false that are true. And so that's when I started going down this journey of Kaizen. I read a book called Uniquely You by Ron Kitchens, and it talked about Kaizen, which is a Japanese term for continuous improvement. And a lot of times I guess you can study Six Sigma, the Sigma belts, and they'll talk about Kaizen, but that's more for a business sense, lean production, right? Making things more efficient. But then I thought, why don't people do this with their life? Why don't they focus on continuous improvement? Why don't they focus on unlearning things so that you can learn better things, right? Because a lot of times we can live life as a prosecutor, a politician, or a preacher, but how many of us actually live life as a scientist, seeking for the truth and willing to change and edit our beliefs to live out our values? So Kaizen, I've applied this in my life, and I'm always sharing that mindset with other people that, hey, you can't unlearn to learn. You can break down those disempowering habits to build better ones. And what I love to say is that I'm getting my PhD in life because you can never achieve Kaizen. You're always pursuing it. You're always getting better because I'm not looking to be the best. I'm not looking to be number one. I'm only looking to be better. That's it. So living life of Kaizen has been transformational for me because I choose to get better, not just in my career, but I'm choosing to get better in my finances, in my health, in my mindset, in my emotional intelligence, and overall work with people.
What advice do you have for students who do have parents or family members who may not understand the process that they're going through in college?
That's a great question. I would say try the best way to connect with them, relate with them, and see how you can. I believe simplicity is the best thing you can do. When I explained to my mom what I do as far as my organization on campus when I was president, I said, "My mom was president, right? I'm president of this or president of that." And so she would understand to that point, and she'd be like, "Oh, okay," right? And another thing too, and that with students or different individuals, that you have to give your parents some grace, because I used to really be mad at my parents and really sad when speaking to them, and judge them a lot. But then when I asked them about their history and realized that their parents didn't show them love or affection or appreciation, I'm like, you get better understanding and you have that grace for them. So I stopped judging my parents so much and actually forgave them. And I just keep it simple and explain to them as much as possible and relate to them as much as I can. That's the best thing I can do.
I love that your whole story is a story of an underdog who had humility, who had perseverance, growth, and he had this mentorship community that was able to help him rise to something beautiful in a way. So what would you say to students who are underdogs? How do you think they should go about becoming the hero?
I would say everybody's a hero. I believe everybody's born a champion. It's just that the world can sometimes break you down along the process. So, and here's the thing. I see life as just a big opportunity to overcome challenges. And as a result, because that individual, whoever is the unsung hero, you've gone through a lot of adversity. But like I said before, you have to get through the test to have the testimony. So a lot of times, yeah, it can get tough. Now, I could have quit. I could have gave up. I could have said, my life sucks. Like, my mom got carjacked in school. My sister got breast cancer. My dad got cancer in school. I could have easily quit. But when you get through it, you have the testimony, you can share it, because your obedience is someone else's deliverance, literally, right? So that's what I'll explain to them, is that yes, you may be seen as an underdog, but you're a champion. And as long as you believe that, you'll make it. And so, but what does that look like practically? What does that look like tangibly? Okay, here's the underdog piece. We lack network. We lack knowledge. But here's the beautiful things about being humans. We can gain knowledge. We can learn. We can grow. We can get uncomfortable, right? And put ourselves in a situation. So I think in these times more than ever, we don't lack the resources. We just lack resourcefulness. That's it. And so what does that look like? Find your personal board of directors, right? That's what I love to call it. Like these companies, yeah, I guess Wall Street, right? People get IPOs, they'll get board of directors to manage these companies. You're a CEO, Ashanti. Go find a board of directors to help you invest to create more value in your life. I think that's phenomenal, because if you lack knowledge, go find someone who is advanced in finances. Go find someone who's advanced in the career that you want to be in. Go find someone who's advanced in relationships. Go find someone who's advanced in emotional intelligence and surround yourself with them, and then that's how you can get to the next level.
So you brought up a program with your company that potential communication majors can get into. So can you give us a little plug into that for our viewers?
Yeah, one of them is the Steps to Success program. Actually, another one is also the Pivot program. Both of these organizations, you can be any major and actually be affiliated with the company. And they actually, one of them, I believe, is the Steps to Success, provides a scholarship program on top of that as well. And you're able to rotate through different desks. You're able to gain experience. You get a mentor as well with both programs. And once again, I believe it's phenomenal, just like with the TA Analyst program. And what I realized with myself is that I was not an engineering major or finance major, but I was accepted in the Technical Analyst program. So I would recommend finding the resources. Once again, I am more than happy to be a resource. I feel free to give out my contact. I want to connect as many people to different opportunities.
Thank you so much for that plug-in, and thank you so much for coming here and being in this interview with us. You may be a junior, you may be a senior, you may be even a freshman and you just got into college. You should always be striving to improve yourself, improve your life, and don't be afraid to lean on others. Like Mr. Muhammad said, get mentorship, get community. Don't be ashamed to ask questions, to be curious, and be humble along the way. Thank you so much to all of our viewers for joining us, and until next time, good night.